Good morning. This is Karl Schmidt, retired pastor from Calvary Lutheran Church, Amherst, New York, which is in Western New York. Well, we've got a sunny morning this morning. It's, was it October 25th? October 25th, 2020. It's a pandemic, of course, so we're recording this for the internet. And this is the 20th Sunday of Sundays after the Feast of Holy Trinity, or in some church calendars, it's the Festival of the Reformation. And so anyways, it's a beautiful day out there, although it is really cold. If you went out early this morning here in Western New York, you probably had to scrape your car window. There's frozen frost on our car windows. It's cold. It's really cold, but sunny. So that's good. Could be cold and overcast, and that wouldn't be as much fun. Well, the text before us today, assigned for the church here at this point, is one of two. We're looking at the one, John chapter 8, verses 31 to 36. That's John chapter 8, 31 to 36. And so let me read that again. This is the Gospel of John, chapter 8, verses 31 to 36. Then said Jesus to those Jews which believed on him, If you continue in my word, then ye are my disciples indeed, and ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. They answered him, We be Abraham's seed, and we were never in bondage to any man. How sayest thou, ye shall be made free? Jesus answered them, Verily, verily, I say unto you, whosoever committeth sin is the servant of sin. And the servant abideth not in the house forever, but the Son abideth forever. If the Son therefore shall make you free, ye shall be free indeed. Here ends that portion of the gospel text. This particular text is about freedom, and freedom is a good thing. I think pretty much all creatures like freedom. On a farm, animals do better to be free in a field rather than to be boxed up in a cage where they get sick and they're confined and they can't exercise. And so even farm animals do not do well without freedom. Human beings, of course, prefer freedom over pretty much any other option that I'm aware of. I really can't imagine a people that would enjoy captivity. I think worldwide, if a person has been bad by whatever the social norms are, they take away your freedom. That's a punishment, pretty much worldwide and throughout time and history. Prisons, jails, whatever, were devised for that purpose, to take away the privilege or the right of freedom. And it's actually should be a right, but it's a right that's not easily kept or won. Freedom is hard won, in fact. Ask any soldier who has fought for the causes of freedom, and they will tell you that it is a hard life. It is a hard battle. It requires sacrifice. Well, when we talk about religious freedom, it is pretty much the same. Freedom is preferable over to captivity. This is what Jesus is talking about in this text. He's talking about the captivity that is with sin. And, well, you can see it. Someone who likes to steal. Well, do they like to steal, or are they captive to it? Once they start, they really can't stop. One thing leads to another. Drugs. illegal, dangerous drugs can have the same effect. Cocaine and other drugs that are illegal can cause an addiction that in our country annually for decades has produced a huge number of deaths in the tens of thousands every single year. And yet, these people who take these things become captive to that very drug. The drug that they were looking to escape or for freedom from turned out to be another form of captivity and enslavement, and ended up ruling their lives and finally taking their lives and their freedom. So, freedom versus captivity. That's the issue here in the text. And I guess each country and each people, regardless of your form of government, whether you have a king, whether you have a president, whether you have a monarch, England has a monarchy, and yet at the same time they have a parliament. We have a representative form of government here in the United States, where we elect those who serve in public office as a public trust, a sacred duty and obligation to defend and protect freedom of the people. Well, when Jesus talks about freedom here, verse 36 of this John chapter 8, if the Son therefore shall make you free, ye shall be free indeed. Well, first off, we look at how freedom comes from captivity in this text. If the Son, that is, the Son of God, he, at great price to himself and great cost, his own life, gave his life to secure our freedom. That is the heart and core of the gospel. You see, the gospel is truly nothing else at all than the story of Jesus. That's it. I'm not in it. You're not in it. We're not part of that story. It centers in the Heavenly Father, who decided before space-time came about that he would give us his Son to rescue us from the captivity of sin and death. That was the great price paid for freedom. And as often is the case, to secure freedom for others requires the death of someone, whether it's a combat soldier or any number of things. Well, so this is the price paid for freedom, that the Son of God has made us free. And the idea of freedom here in the Greek text is eleuthero. Eleutheros is the Greek word for freedom, to be made free, to be set free from a captivity. And so the Greek text, that's my dog Dexy there growling. Anyways, so this is the Greek idea here that Jesus is using, this Greek word, eleutheros, to be free. And he is saying that he, the Son of God, sets us free. And here's the thing about his setting us free. He didn't just do it for some. You see, in this world, it is a mark of sin, a mark of our human degradation and failure, that we make differentiations between peoples, when in fact, we are all simply just humans. There is only one species of human alive on this planet at this point in time. There are not two species, there's one. And we are all that same species. There is, however, a human tendency of wickedness and degradation, and it's troubling that this one species likes to see itself, for those who have this disturbing flaw, in different categories. And it's kind of bizarre because even children decide who's the most popular on the playground, who has friends and who isn't going to be a friend. This flaw, this sin, if you will, this disturbing thing, starts very early in human behavior. You even see this in chimps who violently attack, a group of chimps will violently attack another chimp that isn't part of their group. But in humans, you would hope not to have seen this, where behavior in chimps. And yet, you find it everywhere. Even in a social club, there are charter members, and then there are new members. I mean, and the two are never going to be the same. If you look at just any group of people, they find ways to differentiate themselves one from another. Some do this by the color of skin. Some do this by economic levels. Some do this by educational levels. Some do this by where you're born or from whom you're born. Places where there are titles, sir and lords, are born into that or have purchased it. A rather silly thing. And yet it's just another way of the same stupid idea that make differentiations when there's only one single species of human being on the planet. The idea of freedom, eleutheroi, which is here the nominative plural masculine of eleutheros in this text, in the Greek text of John chapter 8, verse 36, to be made free, is a word that applies to the work of the Son of God for all. When soldiers died for freedom in the United States, to defend the freedom of the people of the United States in the many wars of the country over the centuries, they didn't just die on the field of conflict for certain people in the United States. When soldiers gave their life, they gave their life to secure freedom for all of the people. All of the people. And that is a fundamental idea of freedom. It takes great perversion and twisted, sick thinking to think otherwise. That there is a privileged class in this country, or that there are those who are more special than others. There are not. Because we are all like one people, one species, one humankind. It takes a rather sick mind to come up with anything else. And yet that's the case, even in the church. And some might say especially in church settings, where people get into the church and then think, well, I'm better by behavior, or I don't have this behavior or that behavior. That is one of the most pathetic, stupid thinkings that I've been a pastor for around 35 years, retired, and I'll tell you, the one most disturbing type of behavior I've ever seen in church people is that, where they look down on anyone else based on behavior. They're thinking that they have the gospel, the freedom announced to them of the gospel, that Jesus Christ died on the cross to secure the freedom from sin, freedom from death, freedom from the bondage of sin and death, to the freedom to be children of God, to be free from sin, free from death. even though we die the physical earthly death, but that cannot contain the children of God, for we believe in the resurrection of life with Jesus, who is the first fruits of them who have risen from the dead already. That's the resurrection, Easter morning, when Christ rose from the dead. And that's a freedom even from death for us all. And so for anyone, or especially in the church, to look down at anyone in the world, anyone, is a sick, disturbing way of thinking. Because just like soldiers die on the field of combat for everyone in their country, when Jesus laid down his life, it was for all humankind. That is the core of the gospel. And if you wish to consider yourself some kind of Christian, and you then throw away the heart and core of what is the very nature of the gospel, that Christ's sacrifice on the cross was to make all humankind free, then I don't quite see how you consider yourself a Christian. Is that possible even? To say that freedom is for you but not for the person next to you? Or someone who looks different from you? Or from someone who lives differently from you? I haven't, in all my years, ever met a single Christian who ever stopped sinning. Never. Not one. And yet there are some who think, oh, we have a repentant lifestyle. I am sick to death of that stupid phrase. A repentant lifestyle. You know, the word in Greek for repentance is metanoeo. Meta, a changed or different, completely different. Not reformed, but removed and replaced. Meta. Noeo is from nous, mind. It's like a brain transplant. It's not a reformation of behaviors. It's not trying to be a better person. It means to no longer fear God as judge, but to see God as judge who has pronounced freedom. That's repentance. That's to see God in a new way. No longer as death, but to see God as life. No longer see God as enemy, but as friend. And only the gospel can bring about that change. And so, to try to make differentiation between people in terms of the gospel is a very, very wrong thing to do. Please, if you call yourself Christian, don't do that. Don't be part of anything like that. And no, I don't care who you are, what kind of Christian you think you are, you have not cleaned up your life. If you don't believe me, feel your wrist and see if there's a pulse. Because if you can find a pulse and you're alive, you're sinning. I have not yet ever met a single person who doesn't get up and begin sinning pretty much right away, and then goes through the day sinning. And the night. So, if you think you are, do this. Ask someone around you if you're perfect. That should be hilarious. Because you might be able to lie to yourself and deceive yourself that you're quite something. But I guarantee you, if you ask someone nearby how perfect you are, you will be getting an answer that might not fit what you think of yourself. Your reformed, your repentant lifestyle. What a pile of nonsense that is. Have you stopped sinning? Completely? If you think that, you're lying to yourself. But I guarantee you, people around you are not fooled. So don't do that. Don't pretend that game. It's a horrible thing. You haven't stopped sinning. We can't stop sinning till the old Adam dies in our death. And that ends that. And then God raises us, resurrects us from the dead without sin. That's when that life begins, not here. Luther used to say, simul justus et peccator. simultaneously or at the same time saint and sinner, one who sins continuously and one who lives not in sin at the same time. This is the nature of the gospel, because it is the story of Jesus that declares us free from sin even while we are immersed in it. I've never figured that out, but I'm just me. I'm not smart enough to get that one. But that's how God views us, isn't it? He welcomes sinners and calls them friends and family. And did the disciples ever stop sinning? Not till they were dead. They argued amongst themselves. They criticized each other. They fought amongst each other all the time. And yet, these were the disciples. You think you're better? That's hilarious. That's actually funny. So let's throw that idea in the garbage can. I hope to never have to hear that. Well, I have a reformed or I have a repentant lifestyle. Oh, please. Please don't spew that nonsense. That's rubbish. No, we are sinners our whole lives, and yet, under the story of Jesus, the gospel, the good news, we are free from that. We are truly eleutheroi. We are those set free, and that is for all. The gospel is simply an announcement of a reality. It's not something we make true by what we believe or think. Besides the word believe, pistoieo in Greek comes from peitho, which means to be convinced of something. We don't add to it. We don't change it. We don't make it real. It's real before we are born. It's real even after we're dead and gone. The gospel, we don't add to it, subtract from it, or change it. It just comes to us and speaks to us and pronounces upon us. And so it's for all humans. All humans. That's the gospel the church preaches. It's the gospel the church should be preaching, because it is the gospel that Jesus preaches. The Gospel of John, chapter 8, verses 31 to 36. Well, this has been Pastor Karl Schmidt. No. This has been retired Pastor Karl Schmidt, retired after decades of service. A true sinner. I can guarantee you that. And yet at the same time, saint. Just like you are. And that comes to us as a free gift of God. His sacrifice, not ours. Well, I hope you enjoy the sunny day if you're in Western New York. I hope you stay warm, because it is cold here. Fall is upon us. Although yesterday was pretty nice. We had a really warm day the other day. Oh, it was lovely. It's like middle of summer. But now we're back to the cold. So, anyways, I hope you have a good day, and hope you enjoy it in your freedom, both as Americans and as we prepare for the election coming up, which celebrates our freedom. And secondly, then, the freedom that is the very nature and core of the gospel. All right, take care. Wear a mask. Don't be, there's a couple ways to be really dumb in this world. And one is to get close to people without wearing a mask, because maybe you're infected, maybe you're not. You don't know until you actually even have a blood test or whatever, however they do that test. I guess with a swab, the nose. I'm not medical. I don't have any idea, but however they do it, you don't know. I don't know. No one knows until you're tested, and even then you could be infected right after. So wear a mask. Protect yourself and protect others. It's the only loving thing to do. So, all right. Take care. Bye-bye.